Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And one of the biggest pieces in fitness news this week is that Dana Lynn Bailey, aka DLB, aka Diana Bull Slyn Bailey, aka Diana Bull Trend Bailey, who has tried to claim natural before, got Rhabdo, right? Not only did she get that, but she also talked about overtraining. She's like, I can't believe overtraining is real. And it's like, okay. You know what I always tell you, people don't listen to bodybuilders for training advice, because most professional bodybuilders actually don't know even the most basics of training or physiology. That they literally are where they are due to genetics and enormous drug abuse. And that when you actually listen to them talk, most of them do not even have a rudimentary knowledge of exercise science or lifting or training or anything else. And not only that, they don't have to. In fact, they don't even bother to learn because it's not necessary. They get their results without knowing anything, so why should they bother to learn? And I mean, Dana's a perfect example. The fact that she actually doesn't know that overtraining and Rhabdo are not the same thing. People say, well, no, I mean, is she overtrained? No, she did. Overtraining is not the same thing. Overtraining is a medical condition. It is a diagnosable medical condition. It is not something that you do. It's a syndrome. That's like saying I went and aged. No, AIDS is a syndrome that has to do with a compromised immune system, right? You didn't go aged because you had a bunch of butt sex or something and caught HIV and then, had a T-cell count change, right? That's not aging. All right, overtraining is not because it's not an act. Overtraining is a chronic condition that requires oftentimes weeks or months to accumulate to where you repeatedly chronically overreach to the point to where your body can chronically no longer recover, and then you start having medical problems as a result of it. And it has all sorts of physical symptoms, warning signs, usually like your blood pressure goes up, your resting heart rate goes up, and it stays there for days on end. You start losing the ability to sleep because you get intense muscle cramps that wake you up all night long, right? You get intense cramping. Your strength declines rapidly. Like your maxes go down like usually 20-25%. So if you can bench 350, your bench drops down to 250. That's, again, signs of overtraining. What she had is Rhabdo, and I know I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, which is tearing down of the muscle fibers. Now, a lot of people will look at that and say, well, isn't that what bodybuilders want to do? Yeah, because bodybuilders are stupid. They actually believe that training tears, rips apart, and they'll say stuff like that. You're in there trying to rip apart the muscle fibers. Well, no, that's what Dana actually did, right? That's what she did. And guess what? You go to the hospital. Let me explain how this works. If you actually achieve that, and you actually do rip down the muscle fibers, which is not what happens in training, not what's supposed to happen even during maximum hypertrophy training, what happens is that you start tearing the muscle fibers in large numbers through the muscle. That releases protein into your bloodstream. If you don't go get medical treatment for that, you're probably going to get organ damage. And I don't mean, oh, it'll happen the 10th time you do it. No, it's going to happen. You're going to get organ damage if you do not get this medical condition treated. It will damage your organs because you're releasing proteins into the bloodstream. We're not supposed to have protein in our bloodstream. I know, again, bodybuilders are going to be like, oh, well, I drink protein, man, I get protein. No, you don't have protein in your bloodstream. You have amino acids, right? That's the little tiny particles. The proteins are the chains of them. Chains of amino acids, which are proteins floating through your bloodstream, actually destroys your body. It will kill you, right? It will kill you. You break down proteins in your digestive system into their individual amino acids. They hit the bloodstream as amino acids. That's why you have a digestion process. If they hit your bloodstream as real proteins, it causes all sorts of health problems, hurts you. And some people even believe that's what AIDS actually is. It's a totally different topic. So that should give you an idea that you're dealing with something pretty serious. You don't want proteins, foreign proteins, floating around in your bloodstream. That's a bad thing. Like even your tissue proteins in your muscle, your body is rebuilding those out of amino acids they've absorbed. Your cells build their own proteins. So let's come over to the point. She doesn't even know the difference between the two. And now, she claims she got it from doing CrossFit, But then she continued to work the rest of the week. She did glute ham device sit-ups, which are actually pretty solid. They're pretty good core exercise. I think they're pretty good. In fact, I own a glute ham device. Fantastic piece of equipment. But she was doing them at a CrossFit. And then she said she went on and did her other training through the week. She had bad DOMs from it, but she did other training, leg work and everything else. And she hit the peak of it at 5 days later. Well, she didn't get it from the CrossFit then. All right, let's go back into, again, common sense. What's the onset time? 12 to 72 hours usually. Usually within 24 hours, if you have rhabdo, you will start seeing all the signs. You're going to be in intense pain. You're going to start having medical issues. 5 days, it's starting to regress already. In other words, it usually peaks by the second day. By the third to fifth day, the symptoms start to decline. So she hit the peak and had to go get medical help on day 5, and then she gets hospitalized. Let me explain what actually happened. Again, bodybuilders, listening to them talk about training is absolutely ludicrous sometimes. They literally are so ignorant about training that I wish people would stop listening to them. We need to get them out of the fitness world. This again shows Dana's just kind of a meathead. She didn't even know overtraining, acting like, oh, I didn't know overtraining is real. Yeah, because again, you use so many drugs that you don't have to normally worry about fatigue management like everybody else. You just up the dose. Instead of up the dose, bro, it's up the dose, ho. But all you do is up the dose, ho. Problem solved, right? You don't have to worry about fatigue management. Just add another D-Bolt pill, add a little more Tren, right? Add a little insulin. You recover just fine. No concept of fatigue management. But what probably ended up happening, she pushed herself to her absolute limits. Her core and abs and everything else got pushed to its absolute limits during that training. And instead of having proper fatigue management, she probably went on to do enormous amounts of volume that she couldn't handle, and that ended up finishing those already fatigued muscles, right? Extremely fatigued, under-recovered muscles. And then she went ahead and probably pushed them to their limits doing some goofy leg workout that she did, or core workout, or something that stressed it beyond its limits, and then she got her rhabdo a couple days later from something else she did later in the week. Because it sounds like, just the way she describes it, that she's all about just pushing herself to the absolute limits. Again, that's a sign that someone just uses tons of drugs. That's a sign that they don't understand training for someone who's drug-free, because everyone else has limits, and you can't push those limits all the time. You have to have proper fatigue management. You need proper training programming in order to balance all those factors, right? And you have to know when to push, to overreach, and when to back off. It's a cyclic effect. And you have to learn how to periodize to balance your different recovery curves. You have to. You have to, if you can't just keep upping the dose every time you get too fatigued. So we kind of come over to the point of, and I'm not saying she's not good at what she does. She obviously is. But you guys see the problem here. You have someone like this whose knowledge of training and programming and fatigue management and even these different medical conditions associated with training doesn't know the difference, develops this and acts surprised, and looks like she probably even didn't pinpoint the exact cause. Like, had she just done that CrossFit thing and then taken the next day off from training, she probably wouldn't have even developed it. So she probably did it later in the week with her other training. I'm not saying that's a fact, but that's most likely, just looking at the timeline she gave, what actually happened. But again, why are you going to go, if your core is that fatigued from doing something like that, why are you going to go do a really high volume, high intensity leg workout shortly after? Again, if you've got DOMs in your abs, or if you're getting DOMs at all as an advanced lifter, that's usually a sign that you need to adjust something in your programming. You're maladapting in some way. But, the thing is, it's big news, but I'm looking at it and I'm just shaking my head because, again, and normally we don't see this with women. It's normally guys I'm going to make fun of with this. But in this case, it's just dumb, stupid meathead shit. Stupid bodybuilder stuff. And don't know that overtraining is real. It's a medical condition that's diagnosed by sports physicians. And athletes all the time, and real athletes. The average gym rat is probably in no danger of it. But someone like Dana could be. But again, people stave off overtraining by just upping the dose. Don't understand fatigue management. Don't understand that the body has limits. and don't even understand the difference between these different conditions. And people get advice from them, and it just shocks me. It shocks me that people take advice from these walking chemical factories on how to train without understanding that they literally, their entire knowledge base and all of their results came from drugs, drugs, drugs. And a lot of them don't even understand the most basic concepts of training programming. They really don't. And it blows my mind. And some of us have to talk about this. And I mean, this highlights the example, just reading her story and her even confusing these different things. All I can say is wow. Wow. Stupid meatheads. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.